Jessica Auld. I am a transformative life coach and a social and emotional with trauma-informed coach.
My name is Cecil Wattree. I am a clinical social worker with a macro level lens. As a clinical social worker, I pretty much evaluate the human condition or the behavioral human condition on a micro, meso, and macro level. So that means one-on-one, working in communities, and also working with policy. Some of the things I see in clients as well as just people in community, they suffer with anxiety and depression or low emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a person's ability to recognize, assess, and adhere to one's emotions, not so much as to control them, but be able to manage them, to be able to know they're there, but be able to navigate them instead of being more avoidant of them. It's often based in resiliency. When a person is facing stressful triggers or stressors, their ability to react or to respond to those stressors, whether it does more harm or they're able to navigate the stressors so that they can come out and cope with it or deal with it. One of the ways in which you can build your resiliency is through coping skills. I use those words specifically, coping to deal with, skills, something that you're good at. Because although the term coping mechanism is often used, mechanism usually refers to a reaction in the body that's involuntary, whereas coping skills is something that you want to build onto to make sure that you're able to actually cope with the situation you're dealing with.
A lot of us undergo pressure and it's ongoing into adulthood. As women, we oftentimes struggle being a mother, an aunt, uncle. We fill all these different roles. Well, for our young people, it often comes down to a choice of school, working, and caring for their younger siblings. And sometimes on top of that, supporting their household and being a head of household. Something that I can recommend to our young people and for the adults out there tuning in, make a list of expectations. A daily to-do list will help narrow down what you hope to accomplish in the day, but also set down the priorities. So what are you working at? And taking small steps towards that goal every day. So when I started my business, I was working 16 hours a day. I also was teaching all day. So at the end of the day, I usually had about 3 to 4 hours to build a website, do the marketing, do all of the things I needed to get done. So what I found myself doing was I found that I couldn't dedicate those 3 to 4 hours to just doing that. I set small steps towards my goals. So maybe I worked 20 minutes on my website. Maybe I spent 20 minutes responding to the emails. It doesn't have to all be done at once. Prioritize and set the expectations for yourself.
I think what a lot of people don't realize about stress is that stress is a physiological reaction as well as it is a mental or emotional reaction. When the polyvagal nerve, which is located in the back of the head, is activated or overactivated, becomes overactive, we kind of go into panic. Often when humans go into panic, we go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Oftentimes we don't even talk about fawn enough. Fawn in the sense of trying to ease the situation through love and here, let me give you a hug because things are going really bad now, I'm really scared. But panic is also based on thinking about what has happened and what will happen. Whereas in order to kind of diffuse the polyvagal nerve, you have to be present. Because when the polyvagal nerve is activated in the body, it releases 14 different chemicals into the body. Those 14 different chemicals can affect your pH levels, how you smell. The blood recedes from the hands and from the extremities and goes to the major muscle groups so that you can run if you need to or fight if you need to. Your hands become numb so you can defend yourself. And when these things happen, these very feral things happen to us, which would actively be survival skills, they do not translate into living skills for the daily social lives of human beings. One of the things we can do when we're actively triggered or our parasympathetic nerve has been activated is start breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, making the belly as soft as possible. The reason why we do that is because it deactivates the polyvagal nerve and activates the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is what we need to regulate the body. If a person experiences a large amount of stress constantly, that's toxic stress on the body, which means these 14 different chemicals become habitual. You go through withdrawal from stress. So one of the things you can do is start to work the muscle of being present and starting to breathe, especially when you don't know what to do. A good breathing exercise that I would start off with would be soft belly breathing. And it's simply by putting your hands over your diaphragm, that's so, breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, and allowing your belly to be as soft as possible. The reason why you breathe this way is because as you feel the coolness that comes in through your nose, you're able to acknowledge it in the moment. As you feel the heat coming out of your mouth, you're able to acknowledge it in the moment. But the words in the moment is the most important thing, because panic comes from your past, your future, worried or concerned about either one. But it's only being present and being mindfully present that you're able to kind of get the parasympathetic nervous system to come down, and you're able to start to evaluate your situations with a clear head.
A lot of when we're not feeling our best selves, or when we're dealing with other people that are making us not feel our best selves, we have to take time to internally look to see how we're responding to other people. And as young people, they're just coming up into this. So a lot of that might be examining how we feel in the moment. When we don't feel our best selves, we can recognize the people around us are not making us feel our best selves. The best thing that you can do is get out of the situation. If you don't feel like your best self, it's okay to say, I don't feel like my best self right now. Is it okay if we come back to this? If you start to notice somebody else is constantly making you into that state of you not feeling your best self, it's okay to take a friend break. It's also completely okay to say, can we talk more about this later? I don't feel well right now, or I'm not feeling like I can contribute to this. I don't understand what you're asking of me during this time. A lot of times when our young people are not feeling their best selves, they can't identify exactly what the feeling is. And so I would ask those young people and those adults to take time and sit with the feeling alone and sit and see what that feeling is. And if it passes, if it doesn't pass, try to spend some time letting it go. Journaling is a great activity. Reading a book is a great activity. Watching a movie is a great activity. Not feeling your best self is okay. What's not okay is taking our not best selves and projecting that onto others. For a lot of our young people, loneliness is something that we come across often. A lot of times they refer to social media, YouTube. Filling up the time is a lot of what our young people do during times of loneliness. But sometimes it can take an effect on our mental health when we don't find friend groups, which, as we all know, coming out of COVID, it's been hard to find new groups, meet people with like interests. So a lot of what I suggest that people do when they're lonely is start developing hobbies, finding something that they enjoy that they can do by themselves or in groups. My personal favorite is I have plants. So I've joined a gardening club, but for my young people, they don't identify with book clubs or gardening clubs. So oftentimes I recommend to them to get involved in a dance class, a drama class, yoga class, and then take those practices home so they can do them on their own or with their family.
When a person's trying to figure out what happened to me, this is the reason why therapy or psychotherapy works, in the sense of having a sounding board, not feeling like you're kind of doing it by yourself or left to your own thoughts. A lot of us are overthinkers, and left to those thoughts become ruminating thoughts, and then they become more than, it becomes they start to actually take on the cognitive distortions that happen when we're under stress. Actually being able to talk to someone, talk therapy, is so you have a sounding board to be able to get some perspective. That perspective that's able to be provided can sometimes just be stating the facts as they are. A lot of what we experience through our own lens. And our own lens is based on the experiences that we've had. Those can be skewed. And if we continue to operate that way without any frame of reference, then we will continue to spiral. So it is important that we actually talk to each other about how we're feeling. When it comes to who needs therapy, I view it more in the sense of vitamin supplements. Everyone needs their vitamins. We need our vitamins. The body needs vitamins. But there are times where the body goes through a vitamin deficiency. That kind of gauges how much therapy is needed. So yes, everyone probably should go to therapy, but there is dynamic therapy, which is ongoing to continue, behavioral therapy. And then there's the therapy that we're addressing an issue, or we're addressing, for lack of a better term, a deficiency. And we're just trying to get to a place where we're operating as healthy as we can.
Victoria Bromley introduced the idea of intersectionality, which actually forms into all of our identity bases. So a lot of what our identities come from are the people who raised us, what society says that we should be, and what our friends think are cool. So as young people are forming their identities, my advice to them is to sit down and see what makes you happy, how you feel your best authentic self. And when I say that, I'm saying what makes you feel free. Doing more of that in your time by yourself, and then bringing that gift and that talent to the world. So a lot of our identity is internally based on meeting other people's expectations. When we constantly change our identity and our values, we are not able to find our true selves, and we get our values and our belief systems mixed up. Our beliefs are usually tied to religion, how beliefs change over the course of your life. Your values are the distinction between right and wrong. So my advice to you in finding your identity is looking at yourself internally. You are the perfect mixture of identity, and you were made just right. So living authentically and walking in your purpose is how you find your identity, regardless of what anyone else says.